everybody, Dave Huber here, and this is our post-election webinar. If you are joining us today, it's because you're curious what's going to happen now that the election is behind us. What does the market have in front of us? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got my good friend here, Blair Nightingale. He's one of our elite level coaches at TRADEway. Blair, thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's amazing to be here. We are certainly very excited here at TRADEway. Dave and I have discussed the election at length. It's just a huge moment for our country. It's a huge moment for our economy. It's a huge moment for the people of this country in the stock market even. So what's going to happen? We don't have a crystal ball. So is there some way we can know, hey, what is likely to occur from here? What are some thoughts about that? How do we get prepared? We're really going to break that down for you guys to see where we could go, what kinds of opportunities will be connected to that. I will just say this right off the bat, Dave. When we look at the market, in fact, even here in studio in Texas, I was saying this morning, looking at the stock market, sometimes Monday, Tuesday in the market, there's just not a lot of news. So it's not to say that it doesn't move at all Monday, Tuesdays, but a lot of times it's a little more sleepy because it's early in the week. Well, news tends to really move the market. And as traders, that's something we're looking for. Well, hold on now. We're talking about an election here.
That's
and
big
a
news.
Big election, let alone, right, just in elections. This was certainly bigger, better than anything we've had in a long time.
Absolutely.
So this is a huge catalyst for the market. And we've already seen that from what happened in November till now. So I think there's a lot to really look at here. Whatever it does, it's going to do something. It's likely to do something big. And we want to discuss that and make sure that the people who are joining us here on this webinar are getting an idea of how to prepare for that. So that's really what we want to do here today, Dave.
Yeah, so whether you like the way the election went or not, this is a perfect place to be prepared for what's coming post-election. That's why we call it the post-election webinar, Blair. So let's talk a little bit about the American economy. The American economy is super hot right now. Prices have been increasing. You have experienced inflation in your groceries, in your water bills, in the gas bill, like all of it. The electric bill, it's all going up. That happens when the economy gets hot. Wages often increase during the economy getting hot as well. Here's the problem. If the increases in inflation outpace the increases in wages, then you start to feel the problem. You start to feel the price hikes. You go, man, I don't know that I can afford to go to the grocery store as much. I can't feed my kids for as cheap. I can't even get a cup of coffee, Blair, as cheap as I used to.
Oh, no.
No, I mean, it's bonkers out there. So why is that happening? Well, there's a lot going into that. First and foremost, let's talk one of the hot topic items from the election, immigration.
Sure.
So you have over 11 million immigrants who've crossed our border illegally, right? And here's what happens.
Some say more. Some say a lot higher than that.
Some say a whole lot higher. So here's the problem with that. That is more people. I love people. I'm a people person, Blair.
Dave is a people person.
I am.
Absolutely.
But the problem with that is that with more people, you have more mouths to feed. You have more jobs being taken, right? You got a lot more money being spent. And you say, well, isn't that good for the economy? Some ways, yes, right? Some ways, no. So here's what happens. When you have a whole lot of people vying for the same jobs, now employers can pay less for those jobs because they can get someone anywhere. I don't have to pay you what you're worth. I can go find someone who will pay you cheaper, right, and I'll get the same work. And so that becomes a problem because it causes your wages not to go up as fast as you need them to, especially with inflation. So what about inflation? Well, when you have all these same immigrants coming across our border and buying all the same products we're trying to buy, now you don't have enough supply for all the people and the price has to go up. So now you've got inflation skyrocketing. And at the same time, the jobs don't pay quite as much because there's more people who want them. And I can go find someone else for cheaper. And you go, well, but we do want to help these people. We do want people to come across our borders. I mean, we are a nation of immigrants.
Sure. Yeah.
You yourself are an immigrant.
That is true.
Right? My
That is
friend
true.
here is from Canada originally and recently became a citizen.
Yeah, I did. This was the first election I got to vote in. And little side note here, guys. I think you guys felt it probably when you went and voted, but I will tell you, for me to be here as long as I've been here for some time, to be a part of this historic election specifically, and where I was and the whole day, it was just absolutely, I don't want to say magical, Dave. So in the sense that that almost lessens what it really was. It was just incredible to be a part of what just happened here. So yeah, absolutely. Guys, let's just be candid. We probably all know this. Fake news out there, they like try to paint the picture that this is about hating people and this and that. No, the elections have consequences, decisions have consequences, and what's been allowed to happen in this country has had consequences. And I think the American people stood up and they said, it's not just the economy, but that was certainly a big part of it. It was security, it was safety. All of these things are shifting, and Dave is giving us an idea of how this can even specifically impact one area of the economy. There are gears that turn here while, the talking heads on TV are saying the company line about these kinds of issues. But the reality is there's very practical ways where this is really impacting our bottom line as just Americans, right? So these are really, really important things. We've certainly got a lot of people in the chat here, Dave, chiming in about this very thing because it's been affecting you guys. So we're going to be watching that chat the whole time we're on here today. So please, we'd love to hear from you. Keep putting your thoughts, comments, everything, emotions, questions as you're wanting to put them in there. We know that this has just been a huge thing for everybody. So that's definitely a big part of it. But yes, Dave, that certainly was part of my experience here over the election season for sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that are joining us today. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you here. We've got people tuning in from California, where you live currently.
That is correct.
We also have people tuning in all the way from Israel, Blair, all the way from Israel.
Really?
So, yeah,
wow.
Yeah, we got a Denver, Colorado here. We've got Florida. I mean, you guys are tuning in from everywhere, and that's really cool. And so as we discuss the things that are coming, I want you to be thinking about the fact that we are all kind of connected by one thing, and that is our Lord Jesus Christ. All right. So our Lord Jesus Christ has allowed us and my family to start this ministry work. That's kind of what we think of it as here at TRADEway, is a way for us to empower Christians to take control of their finances. And that's what this is about, because we are going into a time when if you don't take control, you could really be left holding the bag.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've got wealth transfers occurring even now, and it's going to get bigger. It's going to get worse.
Anytime, this is why I said what I said about the news, right? Catalyst. We here at TRADEway, I'll just say something, because we've got, I don't know how many people we got on here right now. We've got like 200 people on here right now. Some of you guys have traded before. Some of you guys haven't. Some of you guys are in our training programs here at TRADEway. Wherever we're at, here's the reality. Trading is not about knowing what the future is going to be.
Nope.
Trading is about knowing what to do with whatever the future hands you.
That
you know how to control you, and you are the head and not the tail when it comes to whatever activity comes in the market. Are you with me? Okay. If you don't know what to do, then chances are you're either going to stay far from the market and miss out on the opportunity, or you're going to feel anxiety, stress, fear, either because you've missed what's happened or you don't know what's happening. So what Dave and I want to do is help you understand how to be prepared for that. But as I mentioned, news is a catalyst. Catalyst for what? Well, we don't even know fully, because we don't know the future. Now we have expectation based on the leadership, and we're going to talk about that. But what we know is change. And when there's change, like Dave used the word transfer, when there's transfer, that's really all Wall Street is, guys. It's money moving from one side of the room to the other side of the room. And you and I are trying to use a skill set to take a piece out of that in the middle. That's what we're trying to do. And the more transfer there is, the more opportunity there is. The less we know how to do, the more opportunity we miss. The more we know how to do, we can protect what we have and promote what we have. That's what we're trying to do here. So this big thing about this election webinar that we're doing here is, hey guys, there's a big catalyst on the table. Whatever comes, there's transfer happening. And if we're ready for transfer, then we have opportunity. If we're prepared, we lower anxiety, raise expectation. Whatever comes in the next 4 years and beyond is something that you're now ready for, right? And so that's a big change for all of us, I think.
And it's not just a matter of missing out on big moves and missing out on the opportunity to potentially like change your family's life financially. Right. It also is about protecting what you currently have, because many of you are currently in the market and you may not even realize it.
Right.
If you have a retirement account, chances are that retirement account is invested in the stock market, which means all the things happening in our country that affect the economy,
right,
is directly affecting your bottom line. It's directly affecting your family's legacy. And so I want to talk a little bit about the problem first. All right. And then we're going to talk about Trump's plan to overcome the problem. And then you and I are going to give our viewers the plan for whether Trump's plan works or not.
Okay.
Does that sound good? All right. So let's talk about this first. I'm going to share my screen. You guys should be able to see my screen on here. So here is part of the problem. This is the thing that most of us have felt for the last 4 years. We've been feeling inflation. And if you think about what inflation is, it means there's too much money in the economy. So the value of your money goes down.
Correct.
And so that happens when you have 11 plus million illegal immigrants, maybe twice that many people believe that. So they're coming over, they're spending money. Now you have so many dollars chasing too few products, and the value of your money goes down, which means it can't buy as much.
Right.
And so if you're wondering how bad that problem is, I have a graph here to show you on your screen. The higher this little line at the bottom of your screen goes, the less your money is worth. And so think of it like this: the higher this line goes, the worse inflation is. Okay. And so this is what we call the M2 money, or the M1 money supply. This is too much money in the economy. Now we're looking from 1960 all the way up to 2010. Okay. And so you can see that from 1960 to 2010, Blair, we more than doubled this thing. It's kind of a slow and steady rise, though. And if it's slow and steady, here's what happens: increase in wages, increase in production as new companies come on board. Sometimes you just don't feel the inflation as much.
Much more gradual.
Yes, gradual. It's when you get a little bit of a spike that it really starts to hurt. And we've had periods where it kind of, you see the little bumps.
Totally.
Where it's a little bit of a spike, we tend to feel it a little bit more. So, in fact, back in the 1990s, you get a little bit of a hump there, but it's not huge. Now, let's talk about what's happened since then. Now, this is just until 2020, 2020, just before we had COVID hit. And that really messed some things up as well. So you can see already there's a problem.
But you can see on here, so for everybody, you're looking at this, those shaded areas on there are recessions.
Yep.
So you can see something catalytic happened in about 2008.
Yep.
And that line starts getting quite a bit steeper. And of course, what's happening here is as that line gets steeper, the way they have approached the amount of money that's in our system changed considerably. And that's where we started to see more of a gap between the buying power and how much money they pay us. Because if my dollars don't buy as much stuff, what do I need? More dollars.
Yep.
So wages need to go up as this problem occurs. And while those have tracked together over time, the gap has gotten wider. And you can start to see that comes up quite a bit in that time period where that slope is quite a bit steeper.
Ironically, the catalyst that Blair is talking about has to do a lot with debt, you know?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that as a result of the 2008 crash, we had a lot of new regulation on debt, but that also caused a lot of false hope that it's okay to just get in a whole lot more debt. And so we have a lot of people who exponentially increased the amount of money they were spending, even though they didn't have to spend it.
Right.
So we had a lot more debt. When you're increasing the debt, you're also increasing the money supply because the system sees more money being spent. So now we get more inflation, and simultaneously more debt causes other problems that we don't even have time to get into, right? So let's see what happened just since 2020. All
Okay.
right. Just
All
since
right.
2020, COVID, that's just 4.5, almost 5 short years ago. Here's what it looks like.
5. That's amazing. It's been that long.
It is. Ouch.
You almost can't see the line. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see it shaded there,
Mm.
but it's so in line with the 2020 recession. It almost gets buried in that gray area there because you don't expect it to go straight up.
And it's because part of what we did was we said, uh-oh, we have this massive pandemic. Let's spend our way out of it.
Right.
And we spent unprecedented amounts, exponentially more than we had spent in all of our history, you know? And we're just not just exponentially more than we spent in a year of or a past year in history, all of the history combined. So what does that do to your money supply? Spikes it so high that now inflation is starting to very quickly deteriorate the savings of Americans. And so that's the problem. Right now you say, well, but we've been fighting inflation. We've been raising interest rates. Yep. Inflation's coming down, we're told. It's getting better. We should be okay. Let's take a look. And because this is just till 2022. So we've had a couple of years. So that's what happened in 2 years since COVID.
Right.
What has happened in the 2 years since? And we have begun to have it come down. But this is our rendition of the war is almost over.
Yeah, totally.
The war is almost over on inflation. That's what it looks like. And so if you're wondering, are prices going to return to where they were? Likely not. But there are some things we can do to bring prices down some. And there are some things we can do to raise wages.
Right.
And Trump has told us he has a plan for that. Whether it works or not, it's not going to matter because we're going to give you a plan for what to do regardless. But here is his plan. So it's a lot of parts, but we're going to focus on 3 main parts. First, you've been hearing a lot in the economy about tariffs, right?
Yeah.
Tariffs on foreign companies. Now, the left would have you believe that if we do a tariff, which is where we charge other countries to sell their products here in America, if we do a tariff, those companies are just going to pass the expense along to the consumer, which will only raise prices for us in the long run. That's kind of true to a small degree because there's another side that they're not looking at. And that is we're also increasing American production. So what happens is if Trump increases American production, we have new entrants into different sectors, right? And so we have more people making the same number of products, maybe more products. And when you have more products, the supply goes up, which brings prices down. Simultaneously, it's American-made products that are going to have a price edge because they're not paying the tariff. So you're going to see an increase in wages for American-type products, a decrease in the wages for the immigrant-type products, right? And we're going to see a jump in supply, which will bring prices down. I do believe that could work, but that's not all he's doing either. He's also going to be deporting a lot of the illegal immigrants. Now, that's a very hot topic issue. Some people don't like it, and whether you think he can or not is irrelevant because if you think about it, 11 million plus, could be twice that. How's he going to do it? He has a plan. He thinks he can. It's a whole thing, but that's a lot of people to find.
It is a lot of people.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
No,
I was
you
just gonna
get
say, there's a lot we could go to there. We've only got precious time with you guys
Yes.
today, but obviously, and Dave and I, you guys probably at home, these are things that Americans are talking about. These are things we talk about. What's that going to look like? How's it going to work? So knowing exactly how that's going to affect the economy as we go along is yet to be seen. I think Dave makes the main point here, which is that's a complex thing. It could be a long thing. They may start a certain way and then move out from there in terms of how they're going to be, deciding who will be deported and how it'll all happen. And certainly, we hope for that to be efficient and effective and smooth and for everybody's sake. But we don't know exactly how that's going to look. It just will have an impact as we go forward here.
And so what happens if people are moving out of the country because they're being forced to, perhaps, right? Now you have fewer people vying for some of the jobs, which means the wages could go up because now I can't just pick anybody. Now my choices are smaller. So I've got to start paying the ones that I think will do the best, and they won't have as much competition to bring their wages down. So I do think that all these things can have a payoff, right? So we talked a little bit about the problem, inflation through the roof, wages aren't keep pacing.
Sure.
That's just the economic problem. There are other problems aside that, but we're talking economy because that's what we do at TRADEway. So that's the problem. The plan, we're going to do tariffs. We're going to increase manufacturing. We're going to deport some illegal immigrants. And we're going to see if we can get that balance a little bit better, where we're going to get inflation to come down, wages to come up. What's the payoff? Well, new American companies means more jobs, right? More jobs could mean higher pay for American companies, right? Why is that? Well, if you have a lot of jobs and not as many people taking them,
Totally.
we got to raise the price in order to get them. So,
which is good.
That's a good thing.
Which is good for people. That's more money coming in. Consumers have more money. They spend more money, stimulates the economy. We see growth. Does Wall Street, even if Wall Street sees certain points that we're making slightly different, overall, if we look at the market since the election even, and I even saw this, well, this would have been 2 days ago, consumer confidence, right? Yep. Rising since the election, saying there's an expectation, okay, that good things are coming higher than they've been in quite a long time. Since I think I saw February 2020, it's as high as it's been, which let's do the math on that. What happened in 2020, right? So I digress. We definitely are seeing confidence in what's coming, and Wall Street's putting their money where their mouth is, because we can see that the indexes, the market indexes, are rising quite aggressively.
All-time highs.
And they've been going up this year. It didn't just start in November, but they've certainly been aggressive since that time. So these are the factors that are coming to play that are definitely, they're showing confidence. So what I'm saying is we're not just looking, hey, these factors could come to play and things could be moving up. No, they're already moving up, right? We're starting to see that more aggressively from here. As they come to bear and play out, Dave, we could certainly see that become even more aggressive, and that will reflect in the indexes as that data begins to roll in.
You bring up a good point earlier too about it could take time, right?
Sure.
And because it could take time, we don't know just how great the economy could get in the next 4 years with Trump at the helm. It could get really great, but if it takes some time to overcome some of these issues, namely inflation and the wage problem, then it might be more gradual. And if it's more gradual, that means we're not going to have as much time to play catch up as we need.
It's always better to prepare than react.
Yes.
Especially with our money, especially with investment decisions. So that's why we want to talk about getting prepared for things, whether they go one way or the other. I've been saying to people, Dave, and I think maybe when I say this, I'm being a little conservative. I can see folks in the chat, they're celebrating. Y'all are celebrating, there's a lot of hope, it's an amazing thing.
Did you? I don't know what just happened.
No, I just, I didn't actually hear that. For those of you who are not in studio, we just heard something outside.
It sounded like a cat.
But honestly, I'm just getting a little emotional. Like, I was with our founder of TRADEway last night, David Mitchell here, and he had on his coffee table the Time magazine of
Mm,
Donald Trump on it.
yep.
And even from the day of the election, I just, it could have gone either way.
Yep.
And I just, I've heard people say things like, depending on who we're talking about, like, it just feels like America is back.
Mm,
It's back, like, and there's a hope and enthusiasm and a turnaround even now, uh, with an expectation of just some really powerful hope that we maybe haven't had in quite a while. And I think I speak for a lot of us on here. Things have just been really sad, just really sad for a while now. So I get emotional because I go, there's just so much hope and expectation
mm,
in here. I say this, Dave, to preface that I've been saying to people, if we get into a boom, okay, a big economic boom, right? Like we've had the last time he was in office, then okay, great. Let's ride the wave. If for some reason, somehow, because of the damage done, we get into what looks like it might be a boom and we have to navigate something more negative, we don't know, Dave, maybe even a recession. I'm just saying it's not impossible.
mhm,
Okay. Even if we feel like it's unlikely, it's not impossible. Well, that's the man I would want in the driver's seat.
mhm.
Okay. With whatever it is that we're going through. And Dave has said this many times here at TRADEway. I've said it many times. There's as much or more wealth transferred in those times
True.
than even in the hot times of expansion. We never want recessions here at TRADEway,
Mhm.
but we also don't fear them. We know how to be ready for those. So whichever side we fall on, we just celebrate with everybody, that we're in the spot we're in right here, and we get to have a webinar like this today, that's full of hope and excitement because of what's happened. People in the chat so extremely thankful for the grace
Mm,
of God in this election.
yep. And
Absolutely.
that's what it feels like. It feels like, God he gave us some grace. In case you hadn't figured out, we like the way the election went. But
Totally.
you bring up this concept of a bit of a wrinkle. Like, what if the economy does still tank? What if there's still too much of a problem to overcome in the near term? I do think that with the kind of infrastructure that we're going to see built through tariffs, through manufacturing, American manufacturing coming through, uh, the kind of economic change that we're going to experience will be great, but it may take some time. And so the wrinkle is we only have 4 years with this current administration that is willing to put America first. That's the idea. We're going to put America first. We're going to put American workers first. We're going to put American wages first. We're going to bring down inflation. Um, but that's 4 years. And in case you didn't notice, the last time he got in office, he wasn't able to fix all the problems,
Sure.
And so what if in the next 4 years we can't get all the problems fixed? Let's talk a little bit about what could be in the way. Well, tariffs, as awesome as I think this plan is with tariffs and as much as I think they'll work, that's just from our perspective. That's our viewpoint. There's another side. And the other side is, what about the countries that are having to pay the tariffs? Do they like having to pay tariffs? Obviously, no.
No.
Would they want to do something to get us to stop the tariffs? We don't know what that would look like.
Not exactly.
We
No,
don't.
no.
But something tells me that there is going to be a lot of opposition to this plan. We've already seen it even within our own media.
We have.
We
totally have.
And so because of that opposition, not only do we have a limited amount of time to prepare, let's say this is an economic boom. All right.
Okay.
It's an economic boom. Things are just skyrocketing. Our wages are going up. Inflation's coming down. It's exactly what we hoped and prayed for. Our plan is to be like Joseph, right? 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. Get ready during the 7 years. We don't have 7 years. We have 4, right?
Right.
So we have 4 years. If it's an economic boom, we got to be ready for whatever comes next. We don't know what will come next, but we do know that the other side is going to really be pushing hard to swing the pendulum the other way. So we got to be ready for that. If it's not an economic boom and we're not already ready, is it too late?
I don't think so. We're here. We can get ready, right? I mean, my wife says this to me sometimes. Some of you guys maybe have heard this. The best time to get ready was 10 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So whatever you didn't do, you can do. And that's where we're at. I want to say really quickly, not to get too far off of this. I've just seen it multiple times in the chat here. A lot of you guys are mentioning the energy market as part of obviously what Trump ran on. Drill, baby, drill,
Yep.
right? RFK, don't touch the oil. I love the beautiful oil, right? All of that kind of stuff.
Liquid gold.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So I think a lot of us are excited about how that can affect. Now the CPI inflation readings, they leave core pricing out of their energy and food a lot of the times because they're more volatile. But certainly Americans don't get to leave that out of their bills. It's one of the things I think is goofy about that reading that we get. We don't get to cut that out. I understand part of the reason they do that, but
The
energy
volatility
prices
of it,
are certainly a concern, and we're looking to see those drop considerably. How is that going to play out in the energy market? Well, we don't know exactly, because obviously as those prices go down, we can see that reflect on what we pay at the pump. That's a good thing. Extra money that we can then spend in other places in the economy. So there's a stimulating effect that is certainly potential there. Building companies, workers, it has an effect there. Not paying a premium and importing oil from other places when we could be stimulating our own companies here in America. Of course, replenishing the strategic reserves like we were going to do in the last administration, or the last time Trump had his administration in place. Those kinds of things, good. You know, what's going to happen on the chart? Like when you and I are going out to actually invest potentially in oil or the energy sector, are we going to see it boom? Or is it going to see prices drop so significantly that companies, while they may be expanding in certain ways, is less revenue because of I've seen the oil market with significantly lower prices at the pump before, and energy companies have struggled through that season because of that. So there's some variables there. Some of you guys are probably in the energy sector. You're a little bit more familiar with
a lot of rolling stocks in that energy sector, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's true. The prices do find that stagnation more so in that sector than a lot of others. But so there's some different variables that can happen there. Here at TRADEway, we're always talking about, this is the way I say it, Dave. You've got your investor hat and you've got your trader hat. Two different hats, two different skill sets. Investing in the energy market, long-term buy and hold, versus trading the energy market and preparing for the upcoming season. We will continue to talk about that, and we're going to get into more of that here in this webinar, what it actually looks like to look at the season that's coming, but through the lens of both buy and hold investing, but then also what do we need to know to be able to trade and navigate it from a more micro perspective, trading the markets. This will be true in the energy sector. You know, whatever happens in the shorter term of the energy sector, we can learn to trade that. And then longer term, yes, some of these bigger trends and how Trump impacts energy prices as a whole, how fast that happens, like Dave was talking about. See, here's one of the things I would just throw in here, because we can talk about jobs, we can talk about consumer sentiment, we can talk about all this news and data on energy that they're going to be throwing at us the next 4 years. Here in the TRADEway community, we talk about these things, we immerse ourselves in them so we get familiar, but we really don't get extremely caught up in the minutia of news, right? Because part of what we do, guys, is we have a skill set to read the price. What is it doing? not what do we think the news is going to tell us it's going to do in 6 months.
Right.
We have some of that. We're doing that today. We've been talking about that since the beginning because this is a unique and certainly a very powerful catalyst, right?
Mhm.
But what it's doing is saying, I'm going to go to the price of oil. I'm going to go to the price of ExxonMobil. I'm going to go to the price of these companies on our stock charts that we use here at TRADEway. And I'm going to utilize several things that Dave and I always teach when we do an equipping and training for actually trading in some of the other programs we do. There's a specific set of things we need to know so that we can assess not what we thought was going to happen based on news.
Yep.
Somebody said in the chat earlier, be careful with your emotions because emotional decisions can lead you astray, right?
Mhm.
That is possible. And sometimes we get emotional about the news and without realizing it, we go, oh, well, then that means this is going to happen. And then we start making decisions based on what we're basically making a prediction of the future, right?
Mhm.
Well, the more we actually base that on some core things that we teach, Dave, that people need to know to make good decisions that aren't just emotional. There might be some emotions in there, but they're not just emotional. The more we're acting like real traders, real investors, real risk managers, and that's what this is really all about. Even though we're starting and we're talking about news and the excitement, you can see I'm getting emotional about the election and everything that happened. I certainly have a high degree of hope. Don't let me, I'm not backing away from that. I'm with you. I really do. But that doesn't change that the skill set of trading and equipping you guys to safely navigate, protect what you have, promote what you have in the market or what you'd like to be putting in the market still comes down to some core things that we want to show you. You've got to know these things if you want to safely navigate what's coming, whether challenging or positive.
So I'm reminded of Nehemiah, right? Nehemiah created a plan. He's going to rebuild the city. Gets all these things in order. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. He gets letters from the king for safe passage. He gets letters for the king for supplies. He gets there, he surveys the damage, and then he builds a team, right? But then he equips his team to actually do the work.
Right.
Gives them a trowel in one hand, a sword in the other, because there's going to be opposition. There's going to be something working against him. And so, like, if Trump were our Nehemiah, right? The workers didn't just go crying to Nehemiah when trouble came. They were prepared for the trouble themselves. Trump said himself, he said, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I just happen to be standing in the way.
Right.
But he can't stand in the way of your individual finances all by himself. We got to take some personal responsibility there.
That's
right?
true.
And so Blair mentions these 4 things, right? 4 things that we have to do in order to be prepared, whether the economy booms and we're stashing some cash away in good times in preparation for bad, or if the economy tanks, or even if it just struggles and limps along and we can't quite get ahead, but we're at least in an environment where we have the freedom to try. What can we do? How can we take personal responsibility? And what are these 4 things that we have to do in order to take control of our finances? So we believe at TRADEway that the stock market is a powerful tool for taking control of your finances, for improving your finances, for, if you are behind, for instance, if you feel like you're behind, it could be a scary deal. If a recession is on the horizon, it could sound like a scary deal.
Sure.
Right. I've got a video I want to show. Maybe we'll show it a little bit later. But I think maybe we show it now. So there's a video that will show you the type of mindset that a trader has and why it's important to have it.
I know what video this is.
Yeah, this is a fantastic
video.
Video.
You guys are going to like this,
Yeah,
I think.
Let me get it up here real quick. I had my screen shared and I accidentally got off of it, but I'll get us to this
Just
video.
while Dave's pulling this up some folks in the chat. You guys are fired up about energy. I love that. Okay, so just let me know as soon as you're ready there, Dave.
Yep.
There was one here I was going to highlight. We need to continue in prayer daily with our individual prayer and group prayer for the financial sector, for every sector, right? Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So that's why I'm a part of TRADEway, says Judy. That's what we're all about here. And that brings up a good point. I'll just throw in quickly while Dave's getting us ready. You know, we've got a victory, and there's 4 years, right? And this is 4 years that could change generations to come. But as the church in any area, not just financially, we're going to camp there today, but overall, this is the time to strike even harder. This is the time to pray even more. This is the time to lean in. This is the time to say, oh, we've got wind in our sails here. Let's push even harder than we were before, because we want to take that momentum and use this time as a space to build for the next 4 years, whatever the outcome is going to be. Because, you know, elections, I'm telling myself sometimes, Blair, stay in the celebration for a bit, stay in the gratitude. Not that we want to move out of gratitude, but I want to stay in this spot before I start going, well, we got to cross this bridge in another 4 years. But I also don't want to forget, you know, you guys, some of you, you've certainly seen more elections than I have. We're going to be back around here in about 3 years, Dave. You know, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. There's plenty to do, but we got to keep praying, right? So I love that you said that, Judy. That's really great. Just a reminder for me, challenge for me, even maybe for the rest of us. It's not a time to just sit back in the victory and go, okay, well, we're done. No, we're not done. We're not done. We're given a space and time to lean in even more, right? Because what can God do with that zeal if we just continue to lean in while we have something like this happen? I heard somebody say that we can only speculate. Perhaps Trump is or is one of the most prayed for people in history. We live in a day and age where the technology can send the picture, the words, if you will, the fame of a person further, faster, and more expansively than ever before. He certainly has been a critical figure. He has been a pivotal figure. He's been a controversial figure, and he's certainly been an influential figure. So people have been praying for him, and it's possible that he may be one of the most prayed for people. And I think we need to continue to do that through this time, certainly, and for his team and everything that's going to be happening here as we move forward.
So real quick, Blair. So here's the video. I'm sorry, we had a couple of technical difficulties that were just causing the share not to work. So I believe we've got it where it's working now. There is a particular, I have to be quiet. There's a particular thing that we've got to understand. And that is that in good times or bad, it doesn't matter. You can be prepared for both. Prepared to stash some cash away, or prepared to accumulate and try to protect during a bad time, right? Depending on what happens. This is a man who is a trader, and he has a trader's mindset. And I want you to see the importance of having that trader mindset. Check this out. I'm gonna have to mute myself, but
Michael's saying he's seen this video before.
That's good.
Bernie's reminding us God is in control. John's saying the same thing. My wife always asks me or tells me, who's in control right now, John, right? Samuel saying the battle has just begun. So, you know, there's that balance, right? I think, Catherine, planning is important, but don't miss the moment, right? The joy of the Lord is our strength. So that's what I was saying. You want to be in the moment, take that in, and then say, all right, I'm going to take that energy, I'm going to give it back to the Lord, and we're going to continue to just press in for amazing things in this season. So, all right, Dave, you're ready to rock that video. So let's go ahead and do that.
Well, we may not be ready to rock the video. It just doesn't want to play. So forget it. Let's summarize the video.
Okay.
So what we have is this man who's being interviewed, BBC. He's telling them that a crash is coming. And you can hear the people who are interviewing him just almost gasp with the amount of disbelief that not only is this guy quite confident that a crash is about to occur, but he doesn't seem worried about it at all. And that's kind of what we're talking about, Blair, is like we don't worry about what's coming because we're going to be prepared for whatever it is. And I say we just jump right into the 4 things that
Totally.
are required.
And I think that's probably what everybody here is really excited to get to. I'll say really quickly, in the video you're just referencing, it's actually, for those of us who haven't seen it, it's a trader. He's on the BBC, right? He's being interviewed, and somebody said in the chat, is it from several years ago?
Yes.
It is from several years ago. And they're basically just saying, you know, there's a rescue package being released by the government because we're trying to avoid a recession. And he kind of just goes, you know what? I'll just be candid with you. I don't really care about the rescue package.
Yep.
Not to be insensitive, right? Not because it doesn't matter to him what happens to people, but as a trader, he's simply saying, my job isn't to guess. My job is to make money. My job's to make money in the market. That's the skill set of a trader. So whatever happens, I just want to know if the market crashes, I have strategies for that. I have things I can use to make money if the market goes down. And then the reporter just says, if you can't see it, everybody in our studio, their jaws have dropped because he says, I wake up and realize I've been dreaming of a recession for 2 years, right? Not because he wants economies to fail, but because he is ready. And it's just a potent and powerful picture of somebody who's looking at the economy, the rescue plan, the markets, and saying, hey, look, I'm just looking for opportunity, whether it goes up or down. And because of my skill set, I can see opportunity, whether it goes up or down, where everybody else, including those in that studio, they're just getting anxiety. Okay. Yeah. He's got opportunity on deck. And that's because he specifically has that skill set.
And if you're joining us today and you're going, wait, up or down, you mean to tell me there's a way to make money in the stock market when it's crashing?
Correct.
And so that's, for some people, especially if you're new to the stock market, it's a foreign concept. But here's the deal, guys. You really only have to master 4 things. 4 things you must master to be successful in the stock market. The first thing that you got to master is pivots. And that's a little bit what everybody knows about the stock market is the stock market goes up, it goes down. I just want to know when it's going to go up. I want to know when it's going to go down, Blair. That way I can buy low, sell high. Most of you watching, you already know that's the thing. Buy low, sell high, make a profit, put it in the bank. But here's the thing. How do you know when it's going to go low or high? And it's not, it seems like this super ethereal, complicated thing.
Got to have a business degree, got to be a quantitative, got to be a mathematician, got to have a securities license, got to worked on Wall Street, got to own a business. We love owning a business. We I think Dave's getting some stock alerts or something. But you don't need any of those things to know how to look at the market and make those kinds of decisions, do you, Dave?
Well, and that's the thing. If I said to you, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, put it in the chat. What do you think I'm going to say next? Stick in the chat and let's see. What did they say, Blair? We got a yellow, right? And why did you pick it? Derek, I see you there. Derek Woodward. Thanks, buddy. So why did you choose yellow? What made you choose that? Stick it in the chat. Let me know. Pattern. Boom. Now, your brain is wired for patterns. You look for patterns. It's why music appeals to us so much. There are patterns in music.
Absolutely.
There's patterns in just about everything that you think, say, or do. You'll sometimes have recurring thoughts. You'll sometimes look for recurring phrases. And that's why choruses in music are so great, right? They go right back to that chorus.
That familiar part.
Hit that familiar part again. And your brain is addicted to patterns. And guess what? So is everybody else's. In fact, all the people who trade in the stock market have brains wired for patterns as well. And it kind of becomes this thing where even unbeknownst to them, they create patterns in the stock market. And so Blair's showing us now on his computer. You can see an example of a pattern right here on the screen.
We're going to pull it up in real time. You know, I just want to show you this quick. This is our charts by TRADEway software. I'll just do this real quick. I'll hand it back to you, Dave.
Sure.
I'm looking at this thing, and what is this stock doing? Now, everybody wants to buy low, sell high. Okay. But we're just going to take 10 seconds here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove to you, this is not as complicated as you think this is. Now, some of you guys have seen this, right? And you learned when you saw this, okay, this isn't as complicated as I thought. Do we need to add a few other things to this? Sure, we do. But foundationally, this is not as complicated as we think. It's not as complicated as I thought it was, because look what I can do here with this stock. Now, this is Ford Motor Company. I don't know the most recent news on Ford Motor.
Right.
I don't know their most recent revenue call. I don't know any of that stuff. What I do know is this stock continues to move between these two price points over and over and over again.
Yep.
And as I see that pattern, I now know what low and high is when we talk buy low, sell high. I'm starting to see here blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow. I was helping some other students earlier today, and we looked at this one. We set up a virtual trade on BN. By the way, I think it's USB. It was right below it. I just used a scan here on Charts by TRADEway, and we found this one as well. We did BN for the full setup. Blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow. Look at that thing. It keeps doing the same thing
bottom
over
to top, bottom to top, bottom to top,
and over again. So we begin to go, oh, patterns is one of the first things we need to know. So wherever the energy market goes from here, guys, I don't know. I have my opinions. Probably you have yours. In fact, many of you put that in the chat. I love it.
Yep.
Right? We have a positive expectation.
Indeed, we do.
So we can just come in here and start to learn this part of the skill set, and it will tell us what to do as it tells us what it is doing, not just what we think it may do, but what it is doing. And that's the power of patterns.
How many of you look at a pattern like that and you go, well, that seems like an oversimplification of the stock market, right? Like that's just a little too simple, right? And I remember the first time my father-in-law, David Mitchell, founder of TRADEway, when he showed me that, I was like, that's it? Like, serious? And he said, well, of course, that's not it. There's other pieces to it as well. But if you start there, you can bring order to the chaos, and then it's not confusing. If it's not confusing, your brain can begin to understand it.
Absolutely.
So if you've ever looked at the stock market and said, I don't think I could ever understand that, this should give you some hope that actually you probably can.
This is a doorway for you to say, this is shifting from anxiety. This is shifting from what you said, kind of ethereal, like, I don't really, what is the stock market? How do I even begin? I've got to get a guy who has a license to go out and do it for me. While there are, we believe at TRADEway, some ways where that is a positive thing for that long-term investor hat, right? We do some of that because, by the way, the financial advisors out there will just leave your money in the market all the way down. But I digress. I digress, Dave. We don't want to do that. Okay,
so we have experienced that. No way.
We don't do that.
You might have experienced that during the COVID
crash.
Exactly.
In fact, I got a call from one of our students, right? She had taken a step 1 class. She called. She wasn't in our program. Had just taken one of our classes. Said, Blair, they left it in. They left it in. Now, this is before we had a ton of money pumped into the economy, like Dave showed us in that chart, just to bring the market all the way back. That hasn't happened like that before. Now, I don't want to get too far off on the tangent. I'm saying that's the long term, but you go and say, well, I've just got to pay somebody else because the market's too complicated. It's too nebulous. It's too impossible. We're showing you how people learn how to do this. There are some simple things that you and I can learn, and they are a doorway to opportunity. It doesn't have to be as complicated as you think.
Yeah. And so then here's this other thing, right? Like, how expensive is it to get started with stock trading? And what I always tell people is, how expensive is it to not get started?
Right.
Because when you look at your friend who called and said, they left it in the market all the way down. Had she just known what she knows now,
right,
and
patterns,
if that's all she knew,
loss.
Yeah. But then there's things like stop loss you mentioned, right? A stop loss. How do you like the sound of that, right? If you're like brand new,
what's a stop loss, Dave?
It stops your losses.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's fantastic. So like if you just knew, and it's a free tool, by the way, if you just knew how to use a stop loss, you'd have the opportunity to stop a catastrophic loss in a bear market like 2008 crash, the COVID crash, a coming crash if it occurs, right? My father or my dad I call him Pops, right? He's
Mhm.
one of our elite level coaches here at TRADEway. But in a former life, so to speak,
So to speak.
before he ever learned stock trading, he didn't know about a stop loss.
Which is true of most Americans.
It's true of most Americans. And had he known of just a stop loss, it had the potential to save him $750,000 worth of losses that he
Having,
experienced.
if I'm correct, Dave, having worked like most of us,
Yep.
his whole adult life,
31 years in retail.
investing in a company that he was faithful to,
Mhm.
having hard earned, built up this retirement. And then, the company changes, the economy changes, different combination of factors, not knowing how to protect what he has was incredibly expensive. So one of the things is that I like to say ignorance. Now, I don't mean ignorance in the condescending way that ignorance can say, hey, you're ignorant. It's not like that. It's just that there are things we don't know, we don't know. And what we don't know can cost us. And when it comes to the market, not knowing that as a market participant is incredibly costly, just as not being in the market at all, Dave, is incredibly costly in terms of opportunity.
Well, and especially with inflation, right? So inflation is literally deteriorating your money. If all you have it in is a savings account, you're not in the market at all, you're experiencing inflation, it is costing you. But you get in the market in the form of a financial advisor, he leaves it in to the bottom, and that's costing you. Then you have people who go, well, I'm just going to go and buy Apple stock, or I'm going to buy a stock that I've heard of, and hopefully it will help. But they end up buying stocks too high, and then they crash, and they tell Jesus, I'll never trade again. I'm sorry. I knew it was gambling, and I quit. And what happens is it becomes this just self-perpetuating problem where people, they get exposed to something good, but because they don't understand it, they focus on the chaos. They don't know how to bring order to it. Patterns can help with that.
When there's no empowerment, unfamiliarity will always bring anxiety. And anxiety will always drive us away from the abundance that is available when we have empowerment. I wasn't checking out on my phone there, Dave. I was checking something out on my phone as Dave was explaining that your dollar in 2000, $1 in the year 2000, okay? It says is worth $1.83 today. Okay, that's a little confusing, but what it means is there's an 83-cent difference in the power of your dollar from 2000 till now. That's if you held that dollar from then until now, if you just saved, hey, I'm a good saver, I'm a good steward, I'm saving my money, it's worth
83% less.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
That is unacceptable. Ignorance is expensive. We talk to people all the time. And these are the kinds of things, I didn't think about this kind of stuff at all. I didn't know any of this kind of stuff. We just had some general financial principles, in my home growing up, saving was one of them. So it's just not working. The same old is not working. And so ignorance in what we've been taught to do can be expensive. Ignorance in not knowing what we don't know, stop loss, good example, very expensive. Anxiety that creates a barrier to opportunity, or we carry that anxiety into the opportunity.
Oh, so true.
And then as was correctly pointed out in the chat, it can poison what we're doing. That is expensive. You guys are on this webinar right now, probably for multiple reasons, but every one of you has something you would like to do. It has gravity in your spirit for something you'd like to do in your life through reaching your financial goals. We don't believe that money is our highest power here at TRADEway. We believe the Holy Spirit, the Lord Jesus, is our highest power. But we also believe that this is one of the things that he's entrusted to us to create impact for our families and beyond on the earth while we have this short amount of time.
Absolutely.
Those are goals that are worth reaching. So ignorance is far too expensive.
It so is. And like you say, not only is it going to keep you away from something good, But when you begin to understand just how good that thing could be, whew. So we have this saying at TRADEway, knowledge will affect your income.
Right.
And it's not just a saying, it is a master truth that God put into the universe. And we know that knowledge is an accumulation of truth. That's actually what knowledge is. Understanding is an assimilation of truth where you actually use it, you understand it, you begin to understand how to use it.
Right.
When you apply it, that's wisdom. Right?
Yeah.
The application of truth. And when you have the skill set to apply truth with wisdom, it starts with little things that you didn't know, things like information. So what does that information entail and how can it change my income? Well, you see on your screen, if all you ever knew how to do was buy and hold, and you bought and held this particular stock, now this is Apple stock, you're going to do great, right? With Apple stock, it went sideways for a while. And if all you did was buy and hold it, you'd make about a 9% return in about a 4 or 5 month period. You'd sound like a rock star there, Blair.
Assuming you didn't get scared when it went below your entrance price and you just say, I got to get out.
Yes. Yes. And it does do that a couple of times.
It does. That's what I mean. And then you go, and then it turns around and goes up right after you got out and you go, oh, it knew it's out to get me.
Sound familiar? Like some of you who have tried trading with no training whatsoever, you've experienced that. Even some who've had some experience with some coaches and stuff, they come to us, they say, I got scared out. And
it's the emotions of
it's very real. So
this is good. This is good. This is a better case scenario.
This is literally in case if all you did was the best case scenario, you bought and you sold at a low and a high, you make a 9% return. It's assuming you have about 6,000 invested, you make $541.
Okay.
Now, if you learn how to implement a pattern, which many of you can see here on your screen, even with just looking at the pattern, seeing high, low, high, low, high, low, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, I have multiple opportunities to buy the stock and sell it when it gets to the top. Buy, sell, buy, sell. If I take the same amount invested, $6,000, and I do that, it's 5 trades. And those 5 trades yield $3,171.
So we've increased skill set. It's something we've practiced. It's something we've worked towards. And we can see how that might affect this. Okay.
Yeah. So then you increase skill set again. There's something called an option. You don't have to know what it is. Here's what you'll learn when you learn how to trade stocks. You learn there's other things you can trade as well.
Sure.
And options cost less than stocks, and they have the potential to move faster and further than stocks.
Right. Okay.
Interestingly, they're connected to the stock. And because they're connected to the stock, it's the same buy point, same sell point. You look for a pattern, Blair. Right.
So you're not reinventing the wheel when you're moving into what we call options. Some of us, first time you ever heard of an option was about 8 seconds ago.
Yep.
Right. You don't need to know what it is. You don't pay for your car insurance what you pay for your car, do you?
Right.
No, you bought a contract. So that's the basic idea, but we don't need to know any more than that. Dave's just showing us with that increased skill set, we have leverage. But we're going to apply it to the same pattern.
And I like that you bring that up, especially for those who are fearful of getting involved with the stock market, because it's stock insurance. That's what options are.
That's true.
So if you've ever thought, well, wait a minute, stock insurance, there's such a thing. What if you had insurance on your retirement accounts? You could do that. So back to what we're saying here, Blair, you've got the same 5 trades. Instead of buying the stock, you buy what's called an option. Buy the option, sell the option, buy the option, sell the option, buy the option, sell the option. Here's what you get with the same $6,000 invested. You have the potential for a $31,000 return on investment. That's 652% return. Now, those of you who are watching, you're going, that sounds like pie in the sky. Impossible. But you don't have billionaires in the world without this kind of leverage. It's huge leverage. And so you begin to see that having an ignorance about the market is really costing a lot of money. If you just had 6,000 you could invest, that's a potential $31,000 that you are being charged by life for not knowing how to do this trade. And it's just the beginning, because then that's only on the ups. And we mentioned earlier, Blair, you said you can make money when the market goes up or down. We tried to watch the video, it didn't work, but that particular trader said, I really am dreaming of a market crash.
Yeah.
So dreaming of a market crash because he can make money when the market goes down. If that were to occur and we made money when the market went up and down and up and down, same $6,000 invested, it yields $100,000 return. That's a 2,113% profit.
Yeah. And so when you look at this, a chart in the bottom left, we look at this and we go, okay, a couple things. One, you're taking all of these skill sets, putting them together. You're being as aggressive on the pattern as you can be because you're taking every side. It also shows in the numbers we're reinvesting everything into each one of those swings. So that's max aggressive approach to that pattern.
Sure.
What if it was just a fraction of that even?
I mean, if you did half that great, wouldn't it be worth it to investigate that kind of knowledge?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because it's increasing. And the main thing is not having that knowledge. There's just certain things that are left on the table. So we have the ability to grow into that. Troy says, I want to catch this really quick. Options is hard to get a handle, hold, confusing. So one of the things we talk about is we're leveraging TRADEway, right? Here at TRADEway, we help our students have an immersion in these concepts so that they are able to learn what might be for somebody who's brand new, learning some of this stuff, take a little bit longer to do. We're going to shorten that learning curve considerably and show you how to do it safely so that you can access this kind of power, but do so in a manner that's much more accelerated than it otherwise would be.
Really brings us to the next point, and that is whether the market goes up or down, whether Trump is successful in his economic plan or he fails miserably, you can have a plan. And the problem is so many people will get caught up in, well, but it's supposed to work. It's going to work. And they end up fighting the market. Right. And they don't just waste a lot of money doing that. They waste a lot of time. You've probably felt that back in the crashes of 2008, maybe prior to that, if you're old enough, in 2000, 2001, during the dot-com bubble, the 80s before that, the COVID crash even. How much time did you lose in the COVID crash when you realized I took a massive hit and I lost all the way down? Blair's friend said they left it into the bottom. He went all the way down and I took a massive hit, and I could have just protected that and I could have jumped it back in. I could have either sold out, been in cash, maybe had some retirement insurance, some kind of way to protect against this crash.
Wait, retirement insurance?
Yeah, well, that's right.
I know we said that. I just wanted to highlight that. The first time I heard it, I was like, retirement insurance. Dave and I have taught this variations of what we're showing you here in one form or the another over years in over 27 cities across the country. True statement. And when you tell people there's retirement insurance, they go, what?
Yep.
Like, we're maybe not on the level with, because certainly I would have heard of it, right? Yep. So I digress, Dave. Keep going. I just think that's worth saying because it's just one of those things where, hey, just because it's true doesn't mean you know about it. This is true of the gospel. I say this every time this comes up. How many people have no idea?
Yep.
It's the most important pivotal thing. It's much more important than
stock trading by a country mile.
Insurance on our retirement, even though that's very important. It's much more important. Many people, no idea. If that was true, I would know. I mean, that's the thought of billions of people.
Yeah.
No, just because it's important doesn't mean we know. This is why we got to seek out wisdom as gold or silver.
Yep.
Is actually what the scripture says. So it's really important. All right, Dave, go ahead.
So imagine experiencing a loss because you didn't know about retirement insurance, or experiencing just a neighbor who made massive amounts in the stock market and you couldn't figure out how he did it and you missed out on that opportunity. There's so much time that represents for our students because you guys have to go to work to make that money. Whereas your neighbor went and made money in the stock market and his money went to work instead of him going to work.
Right.
And so if you're at a point in time in your life where you're like, I need to go to work and I'm getting tired of work, or maybe I'm getting to the point where it's harder to work. Now I've got a problem because now I've got to make up time, especially if my retirement isn't where it needs to be. We got a lot of people, they're 60, 65 years old. They may have $100,000 in an account. usually around that age. Just for average American, you
That
need
is true. That's close.
$1.3 million in a retirement account. Ask yourself this question. Do I have $1.3 million in a retirement account? If you do, then you are ready with an average income,
Right.
an average income to retire. If you have less than that, you have some catching up to do. What does that take? Takes time. And so you go, well, how do I make up all that time? And what's great about the stock market is you have an opportunity to find yourself making time, and I don't mean like I'm going to shift some things around in my daily routine so that I can make time to trade. I mean that when you get paid because your dollars went to work and you didn't, now it's like you got that time back that you would have spent at the job. And so what do we do? What's the plan? How do we prepare for when Trump, whether it's successful or it fails? 4 things, master pivots. Do that primarily with bringing some order to the chaos. And that's going to be your patterns. All right. We're going to show you how to do patterns when you come and you join with TRADEway to learn how to do stock trading. We gave you an example of it there on the screen so you can kind of see it. Just take lines and draw them. See if you can find a pattern. That's one thing. But then you got to get informed because ignorance is expensive. You don't have to be informed by TRADEway. It can be by anyone who has a knowledge of the stock market, who has done well in the stock market. And make sure that it's someone who's actually got a track record, right? So get informed because your ignorance about stock market things is costing you tremendously. But then don't waste a lot of time fighting the market. Learn to get the probability of the market in your favor. How do we do that? We use those patterns.
Correct.
You put them on an S&P 500. You go, what's that? That's, you can literally type it in, and Blair may pull it up here in a sec.
Yeah, I'll just pull it up while you're talking here, Dave.
The S&P 500 is a collection of stocks, 500 stocks that we follow. It's the industry leaders. They're called large cap stocks. And what the market tends to do is follow the leader. So when you have the big stocks that are driving or trailblazing a path, the little stocks tend to follow. So if the market's going up, we say the S&P 500 is going up. That means the market's going up. And if the market's going up, the rest of the stocks are typically following the S&P. You can see on the screen here. Now, did you share? Yeah, you shared your screen,
It's
right?
sharing. It's live.
So on your screen, you see that the market is going up, right? This is the S&P 500. If you put it into, I think it's a Yahoo Finance, it would just be SP-500, and it'll pull up a chart similar to this. And so what you're looking for is, do I have some upward motion? Well, I can put a support and a resistance line on the S&P 500 to see, is it following a pattern? It kind of is. It's a little messy, but we've got some anomalies that come down below what we call a 50-day moving average. That's for another time. And we do have support and resistance on the S&P 500. So you're going to be looking for that. But then you also have to know, how does the news play on the chart, which is really where we all started today. We've got Donald Trump and his economic plan, and we can already see it taking effect on the stock market. That big gap up we see, I guess it's been about a month now, hasn't it? A little over a month. That big gap up happened when Donald Trump was elected because he had already shared the news of what his economic plan would be. The news came in that he is going to be our president. So now we know what's going to happen. We're going to reinvest in the American economy. We're going to bring inflation down. We're going to raise American wages. We're going to make sure that Americans are not fighting with illegal immigrants over these jobs. We're going to bring energy prices down that could help with the prices of everything else as well. So we see a plan. We see the news, and all this news affects the probabilities in the market. And so what we do at TRADEway is we teach you how to position yourself to take advantage of those probabilities. So we have pivots, picks, probabilities. There's one more thing that you've got to do, and that is you have to master yourself. Because at TRADEway, we don't just focus on the trading, we focus on the trader. And we do that first and foremost by helping you discover what is the purpose you're trading to begin with.
Totally.
It's so
Yeah.
important. You have something that needs to be fixed in your life. Maybe it's a financial need. That could be a part of the purpose, but that's typically just the tip of the iceberg. We're going deeper. We're going to try and figure out what is it you truly want to accomplish with your friends, your family, your ministries, your work. Like, why did God call? I tell people, Blair, stock trading is not another job for you to hold down. It's not another business for you to start. It's what your money does while you do what God called you to do. And that's what we want to do, is focus on what is your purpose and what's the purpose of your money. Part of that purpose of the money is to go to work for you. We help you formulate a plan so that you don't have confusion. You don't have the chaos playing on your mindset, getting you all emotional and making it where I don't know what to do. You're like the trader we talked about that we tried to watch the video, it didn't work. Instead, we're going to partner with you so that you can take advantage of the next move, whether it be up or down. And so now I think it's important for us to talk about, like, how do we get to that next move? How do we get going? What's next for us, Blair? If we can master these four things: picks, pivots, probabilities, and our person.
Master the person with the plan.
With the plan and partnership with someone. Doesn't have to be TRADEway, but we'd love to partner with you, right? Make sure you have a mentor. See, now that comes straight out of scripture too, because when Moses walked the earth, he was mentoring Joshua. And while Moses knew of the promised land and saw the promised land, he didn't get to go into the promised land. Ultimately, it was the man he mentored that brought the Israelites into the promised land.
Correct.
And so being mentored is extremely important. Without that mentorship, I mean, we're speaking as men here.
Yeah.
I mean, God had a plan and it was going to get done regardless. But without mentorship, from our perspective, it may never have happened.
Well, there's just something to say about, we want to get somewhere and we're going to need something new to get there, right? I say, if you want to get somewhere, you got to go somewhere. And having people who've gone before you, who know how to help you work out the things that you want to work out so you can get to the purpose, is the basic idea of mentorship. But it's powerful. It's powerful, and it's what we do. I've got Michael here in the chat just putting out a very practical scenario in his trading. And I'm going, okay, I've seen that. I've done that. I've been there. I've talked to hundreds of students, if not more, who've had that specific scenario. So learning how to really apply these four things that Dave just talked about consistently in real time from people who have walked through those things many, many times is how you get immersion and leverage, so that you learn these things. You learn how to fit them into your own life, trading and trading training, so that you can unlock these opportunities, has to fit into your life. We haven't just worked out how to do a trading system. We've worked out how to get a trading system into your life, right? While you're doing what you're doing and looking to transition, it's got to fit into your life. And we have an immersion program here at TRADEway, Dave, that helps people get what they need and accelerate that process, so that these different factors, four factors we talked about, are something that you can learn to use over and over and over again. So the question is, Dave, how do we get connected to looking at what might be the best way for folks who are joining us today to do that?
So here's what you do, because you're not going to want to miss this. For the last 10 minutes of our broadcast, we're going to bring in a very special friend of ours. She's known my family longer than I have. She was part of the Mitchell family who started TRADEway long before I came into the picture and married Katie.
Right.
And so she has been very integral in helping people take that next step, knowing what the next step is for them first and foremost, but also take the next step. And one of the things that I love about Christy McLeod is that she cares so much about everyone who comes in contact with TRADEway. She's a good friend of ours, lifelong friend. I want to bring her in, but we got to put a chair in for her. So here's what I want you to do. Grab something to maybe write with, but also if you need a 3-minute bathroom break, we're going to do 3 minutes, bathroom break. And then we're going to bring Christy on, and you're going to get to hear from her. You don't want to miss it. See you here in a sec. Look at that.
We're
We got
back.
her.
We're back.
We're back. So, guys, this is Christy McLeod. She is a lifelong friend of ours. She was kind enough to let me marry her friend Katie. And Christy, you have been a part of TRADEway for a very long time now. And I would like for you, just for a couple of moments, to share what your experience with learning to trade, because I know you and Boyce got into it. What's that been like a little bit for you? And then what you would suggest for them to get started.
Okay. So how many of you are petrified? Yeah, me too. I don't like losing 2 cents. So when David first told me we were going to do this, I thought he's lost his marbles. And he said, what else are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. So here we are. How many years later? 18 years later, something like that. And here we are, changing people's lives all the time. And if you were to meet David Mitchell, he would tell you he's just a normal guy. But if you were to ask him what his goal in life is, he'd tell you it's to put more money in Christians' pockets so that we can change the world. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting thing, huh? And so anyway, one thing led to another. And first month, I thought, oh my gosh, what in the world have I done? I have no idea what I'm doing. Computers, me, no, and numbers. So anyway, it was all good. Then next month he said, well, you're going to start teaching it now. And I said, oh, really? Okay. So he said, that's the best way to learn. So one thing led to another. And then I got my husband out of work and we started teaching it together, and we met Blair.
That's right. That was February of 2015.
Yeah.
I tell people on here all the time, I say, I didn't even know what a 401k was. And that's a true story. I really didn't know. Christy was teaching this class in Philadelphia in 2015. It was freezing cold. She's right. And you know what they did? They showed us the 4 things that Dave and I have been showing you today. Patterns in particular was one of the biggest things that I remember. And that was the doorway for me. That was the doorway for me. And that's the same thing you're hearing today. So here we are a decade later.
Here we are. And look at him.
Yeah.
He's one of our superstars. And I'm sure he was thinking that day too. And I said, you sure you want to do this? He said, I'm sure. And now he's amazing. But it just goes to show you that anybody can learn this. We can all learn it from scratch. And if you're intimidated. Don't be, because all of us started the same exact way. All of our coaches have grace. They all have patience, more patience than me. And they're just amazing. I do have patience sometimes, but they've
At
all
least
been
with boys, right?
Stock trading will make you grow in patience. That's for sure.
That's for sure. But the thing is, any question you have and you think it's silly, don't, because they've heard it all 1,000 times. So they know what you're going to ask them anyway. But our coaches are amazing. The process has been amazing. It's a learning experience. I'm telling you, everybody's a little frightened at first, and it's okay. You're no different than anybody else. And what I want you to know most about TRADEway is, and you may think it sounds corny, and that's okay, we are a family.
Mhm.
TRADEway is a family, and any of the students that know me that have gotten involved with us will tell you I was right, that we are a family. We pray for you. We care about you. I could go on and on about over the years how many different people that lives have changed and all the praying we do for them. But we are a true blue family, and the whole system is a family.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
here we are.
I mean, we have every one of our coaches learned from David Mitchell, learned
right.
how to trade stocks, learned from you. Some of them learned from me, right? But
You know,
and now
Blair?
they learned from Blair,
Mhm.
and they started off as students. And one of the things that we care about doing is empowering the student to no longer need us.
That's right.
Like we want to empower you, not get you to the point where you just, oh, I always will ever forever need TRADEway and I'll have to pay them for the rest of my life and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. We don't do that
No, we don't.
because the Lord has asked us to be an empowering agent, I think, for his people. And so we do that through knowledge, which is truth, the
Yep.
accumulation of truth. We help people assimilate it so they can understand it. And then we help them apply it so they can begin to change their lives. And what happens is when they see that change, they go, well, I want to help.
Mhm.
And so what's really interesting is you can't necessarily pay those kind of people enough because they know how to stock trade.
That's right.
But they get so excited about the mission. They get so excited about meeting you and learning what your goals are and helping you meet those goals that all of a sudden they want to be a part of it. And that's part of why you got involved, right?
For sure. For sure.
But now you have helped thousands and thousands of people come to TRADEway and learn how to trade stocks. Many of them had no clue
No clue.
and were scared like a deer in headlights.
Just like
And
me.
Just
that's
like you.
that's one of the things I was going to touch on here. Like, so we've got, hundreds of people on here right now. So for people that are on here and going, okay, I've been listening, the election has happened, things are changing one way or the other, and Dave and Blair are giving me these points. I want to know more. How does this fit into my life? Christy, you've sat with so many people. You've talked with so many people that are in this exact spot
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
So what is the main thing that they need to know so that you can help them from here
Okay.
to move forward with whatever the plan is going to be that fits for them?
And we need a plan that's right for them. Not
Right.
everybody's
So true.
not everybody's in the same boat. This isn't cookie cutter. So I need to talk to you so that we can figure out what it is that we need to do for you.
Exactly. Yep.
And I always say, I love December. I love December. Most companies don't. I do, because you know what? We're going to get a jump start on January where everybody makes their crazy resolutions, but we're doing it in December to get you going now.
Right.
And I also say, if you have children, this is the best gift you could give your child, is a business that, and it's kind of like a selfish thing, because you'll never have to worry about your kids financially again, if you can teach them how to stock trade and do it correctly. And we have the compression behind it that David Mitchell took all these years to learn it, and now you can do it quicker. So
Exactly.
it's a great
Yep.
gift for your kiddos. And if you want to call me, I'll help you figure out what it is you need to know to get you going. And I know my guys here think I've lost my marbles when I say I'm going to give you my phone number.
All right.
And I was going to say,
Okay.
that's actually in the chat. Now you'll notice everybody in the chat. Okay. One of the TRADEway team's been posting it there. So you can reach out to Christy directly right there in the chat. You've also got to book a call. So if you want to click the link, book a call, it'll go into the calendar. You'll see some slots. The slots will fill up. So get in there, click on that, pick your slot, or you could go ahead and reach out directly. And that is right in the bottom of the chat for everybody.
And if you text me, don't call me, because I could be talking to somebody and I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you, but text me and I will call you back, and I can put you on the calendar as well. That way we can get it done faster and in order. So I'm happy to help you. 512-589-1130 or
Click
the
on
link.
the
The
link.
link.
Click on the link,
Click
and
on the link,
it will
it's
help
right
you
there.
get growing. So one day you can be like Blair, one day you can be like Dave.
You'll
and
be
off- and
you'll
off
be
we go.
better here. You'll be better, hopefully, because this is the goal. You take where we started or where we are
The
at now.
ceiling
Yeah.
and the floor.
Right, where
Yeah.
we're at now, and you start where we're at now because you get to take advantage of everything we've learned over the years.
That's right.
And so that's very helpful. So if you want to get a jump start on your next year's resolutions, right, then you
That's
need
right.
to call Christy. Click the link to book a call with her. She can help you know what your next steps are. Because guys, ignorance is extremely expensive.
Ooh.
And being unprepared for whatever comes will really expose that ignorance, and it will cost. And it's not a scare tactic.
No,
it's just
no.
it's
No.
just
There's an
truth.
exciting thing happening, and
Mhm.
what we do here is with the stock market. So we're saying, okay, there is a major economic driver that has just changed in our country, in our economy, in our world. It's going to have implications for the economy. It's going to have implications for the market and for your money. And that means opportunity. So why wouldn't we talk about this here? Because we know this is going to be a core subject that we help our students navigate for the next 4 months, 4 years, and beyond. And we want you to be able to be a part of that as well. So you can click that link, text that number, and you can connect with Christy, and she will take care of you, help you know exactly what the next steps that fit you can be. And then we are off to the races from there. Dave, any parting words for us today?
It was an exciting election season.
It totally
I'm
was.
very
Yeah.
excited for what is in our future because of the results of that election. But what I'm more excited about is just the fact that God has put people that are his people in our path to help, regardless of what happens with the election. We don't really care what the market does. We just care what we're going to do,
That's correct.
which is what we're going to help you be prepared to do in the coming year. So thank you for being a part of the post-election webinar. Christy, thanks for being on
Thank you
with
for
us.
having us.
Blair,
Thank
thanks for
you
being a part of
coming.
this.
Dave, thank you. My pleasure.
A lot
Absolutely.
of fun, guys. We'll see you next time at the next webinar event, and then we'll see you in the market.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.